A dim candle flickers as Machiavelli's voice breaks the silence. "Welcome, traveler of thought," he says softly, his eyes calm yet piercing. "You've come seeking the truth about goodness, but beware. What you call virtue, the world calls weakness." He walks slowly across a marble floor, his shadow stretching long behind him. Tonight, we peel away the mask of morality. We'll see what hides behind the smile of the good man, and why, in the theater of power, angels are the first to fall. Then he stops, turns to the camera, and whispers, "Let us begin." He steps toward the window, gazing at the city bathed in morning light. "People praise the light," he murmurs, but they never notice how it blinds. The streets below shine with gold, merchants smiling, preachers preaching. Yet in the corners, the hungry beg, and the powerful hide their knives behind blessings. Machiavelli smiles faintly. Goodness, when absolute, becomes blindness. The kind man refuses to see evil until it devours him. The candle flame dances, like truth, fragile but alive. He walks through a narrow street, watching a kind merchant give bread to children. But behind the act of charity, another man steals from his purse. Machiavelli observes silently, his eyes neither judging nor pitying. "The world," he says, "rewards the fox, not the lamb." He writes in his small notebook, "Pure souls are flowers grown in battlefields. Their beauty is undeniable, but so is their fate." Back in his chamber, he studies the faces of men drawn in his journal. Popes, princes, poets. All of them, he says, speak of virtue, and yet they survive by deceit. He lifts one sketch, a smiling nobleman. Even lies wear beautiful clothes. He takes a deep breath. Perhaps the greatest deceivers are those who've convinced themselves they are good. He closes the book slowly. That, he says, is how innocence becomes a weapon. Night falls. The study glows with fading firelight. Machiavelli dips his quill into ink, his eyes reflecting both sorrow and clarity. He whispers, "To be loved without being feared is to invite betrayal." He pauses, looking directly into the darkness ahead. Maybe goodness is not the light we seek, but the shadow we must understand. The flame trembles, the ink dries, and his words remain, not as comfort, but as warning. Machiavelli stands before a statue of an angel, cracked and covered in dust. He traces its stone wings with his hand and whispers, "Men worship virtue, yet they are enslaved by it." He watches the city below, merchants refusing profit in the name of morals, leaders hesitating to act while corruption grows. The world praises those who hesitate, but it follows those who act. He turns away from the statue and says quietly, "The good man becomes a prisoner of his own conscience, while the ruthless rewrite the laws he obeys." Inside a grand cathedral, candlelight flickers as Machiavelli observes priests whispering behind golden icons. Their words are holy, but their eyes are hungry. "Morality," he murmurs, "is the costume of control." He realizes that those who preach purity often do so to rule the impure. The louder a man declares his goodness, the deeper the shadow he hides. Virtue, he says, is not about truth, it's about theater. And the most dangerous stage is the one inside the human soul. He returns to his study, and takes a golden halo from a chest, a relic once worn by a saint. He holds it in his hands, staring at its perfection. Then, slowly, he bends it until it breaks. The sound of metal echoes like a truth set free. Morality, he says softly, was never meant to be worshipped, only understood. He places the broken halo on his desk beside his writings. The wise man wears no halo. He wears awareness. The candlelight flickers once, as if bowing to the thought. Machiavelli stands alone on a marble balcony overlooking Florence at dawn. His voice is calm, almost sorrowful. Truth, he says, is the heaviest crown a man can wear. He watches merchants lie to survive, lovers lie to protect, rulers lie to rule, and the honest stand alone, punished by their own integrity. He learned early that honesty is admired only when it's harmless, but the moment it threatens comfort or power, it becomes treason. He closes his eyes and whispers, "The purest truth is the one that no one dares to speak." Inside his chamber, Machiavelli lights a small fire and places a mirror beside it. The flame reflects endlessly, one truth birthing another, until the reflection distorts. Every truth, he says, burns the one who holds it too long. He recalls men who spoke honestly in public squares, only to vanish in silence the next morning. Truth is not light, it is fire, and those who carry it must be willing to burn. He looks into the mirror and adds, "Even the truth I tell you now has its price." Later that night, he walks through empty streets, hooded, silent, unseen. Once, these streets had echoed his ideas. Now, they echo his exile. He learned that society loves the comfort of lies more than the discomfort of truth. The truth teller is not rewarded, he is removed. But Machiavelli smiles faintly, because exile freed him. Only when you were cast out, he says, do you see how the walls were built. He disappears into the mist, not defeated, but awakened. In a silent hall, Machiavelli lights a single candle. Its flame flickers wildly as if trembling, a perfect image of the human heart. Fear, he says, is the seed of order. He walks slowly, his hand tracing ancient columns. Without fear, men forget limits. Without limits, they destroy themselves. He gazes at the flame again, steady now, tamed by his breath. The wise do not kill fear, they learn to hold it. And with a whisper, he adds, "The one who commands fear commands reality." He steps into a courtyard at dusk where statues loom like frozen witnesses. The ruler who seeks to be loved, he says, depends on others. But the one who is feared depends only on himself. He watches the wind shake the torches, shadows moving like restless souls. Fear binds the crowd tighter than loyalty ever could, because love asks for trust, but fear ensures obedience. Machiavelli smiles slightly. A man's loyalty ends where his fear begins. The statues seem to bow in agreement. Back in his study, Machiavelli stands before a large mirror. His reflection wavers in the candlelight, half human, half idea. He says quietly, "Fear is not evil, it is a tool, but the fool uses it to destroy, the wise use it to build." He touches the mirror, watching his reflection tremble. The secret is not to be feared, but to understand what people fear most. He steps back, his silhouette fading into the golden darkness. Control that, and you need nothing else. In a quiet chamber, Machiavelli studies a marionette, its strings tangled, motionless. He whispers, "Every man believes he moves by his own will, but the truth is simpler. He moves by what he wants." He begins untangling the strings gently, each one labeled in his mind: greed, pride, fear, love. To control others, he says, you must never pull, only tempt. He lifts the puppet slowly, its arms rising as if alive. People are not forced into cages. They walk into them, chasing what glitters inside. Later, he stands in a grand hall filled with echoes of music. A small orchestra plays softly, each note rising like a thought. Machiavelli listens and says, "Manipulation is not cruelty, it's composition." He compares human emotion to music. You play the note of fear too long, it breaks. You play hope too short, it fades. But play both in rhythm, and they will follow you anywhere. He lifts his hand, conducting the invisible symphony of human hearts. The true manipulator, he smiles, never commands, he conducts. At night, Machiavelli writes by candlelight, his face half in glow, half in shadow. Power, he writes, is not the ability to force, it's the art of suggestion. He recalls moments where a whisper changed wars, a pause altered destinies. The best manipulator, he notes, is the one they never suspect. He sets down his quill, smirking faintly. History remembers kings, he says, but it's the invisible hand that wrote their names. In his study, Machiavelli draws circles and lines, a map of invisible control. He speaks softly. Obedience is not built with swords, it's built with symbols. He sketches a pyramid, at the top one name, below thousands of minds. Power flows downward only because belief flows upward. He dips his quill again. The greatest rulers don't command armies, they command imaginations. He looks up, eyes glinting in the candlelight. Fear rules the body, but belief rules the soul. Later that night, he stands before a mirror, the same mirror from his youth. He places no crown upon his head, yet his reflection wears one made of light. He smiles faintly. The greatest power, he says, is to rule without ruling. He realizes that true authority begins when the mind no longer seeks validation. Kings fear losing their crowns, he whispers, but the wise fear only losing themselves. The candle behind him fades, leaving only the glow of his reflection, serene, eternal. A grand marble stage glows under candlelight. Machiavelli stands alone at its center, surrounded by empty masks hanging in the air. He bows slightly and says, "Welcome to the only play that never ends, the theater of lies." He picks up one mask, smiling, and another, weeping. Truth, he says, is too fragile to walk alone, so it hides behind masks, changing faces to survive. He looks up at the audience that isn't there. The world doesn't want honesty, it wants comfort, dressed as virtue. Back in his study, Machiavelli opens a box filled with letters, some sealed with wax, others burned at the edges. "These," he whispers, "are not words, they are weapons." He smiles faintly. To lie well is not to deceive, but to protect. He dips his quill and writes slowly. A lie told with purpose can save a kingdom. A truth told carelessly can destroy one. He pauses, the flame reflecting in his eyes. The wise do not worship honesty. They control its timing. Later, he sits before a mirror holding a white mask. He places it gently over his face, then removes it. The reflection behind the mask is not his own anymore. It's older, wiser, quieter. He says softly, "When you wear a mask too long, it begins to wear you." He lowers it on the table and looks at his reflection one last time. "The art is not to become the lie," he whispers, "but to let the lie become invisible." The candle flickers, and both his face and the mask fade into shadow. The room is silent. Only one candle remains. Machiavelli sits before his desk, surrounded by torn pages and old ink stains. He looks up and says quietly, "All my life I chased truth, only to find it running toward me from the dark." He turns a page, blank this time, and writes slowly, "Truth is not light. It is balance." He leans back and sighs. The wise do not seek to be right. They seek to understand. Outside, the wind whispers through the shutters, as if agreeing. He walks through a corridor lined with books and statues, each one a memory of men who believed they knew everything. He touches the stone of a philosopher's bust and murmurs, "Knowledge makes men proud, but wisdom makes them humble." He realizes that the more he understood power, the less he desired it. To see too much is to lose the taste for illusion. He smiles faintly and whispers, "The highest mind rules no one. It observes." Night falls. Machiavelli returns to his desk. The last candle burns weakly, its flame trembling like the last heartbeat of thought. He says softly, "Perhaps the final truth is that there are no villains, no saints, only choices." He closes his book, places his hand over it, and looks toward the window. Power fades, fear fades, even wisdom fades, but awareness remains. The candle dies out, and in the dark, his voice lingers one last time. The mind that sees is eternal.